Welcome back to. I promised at the beginning of the season that I would know what episode we were on, but I think this is episode 69. Not entirely sure, but I think that's a good enough guess as I have. But I am joined, as always. Oh, it's 68. We get to do something special for episode 69. We'll actually just show up nude. You'll see, like, just not promising that. That's not happening. I know you sick
He
fucks would
promised.
like that.
He promised
I
it.
did not. It's okay. We can wear as many clothes as we want under. It's like the opposite of what you do when you're in like a Skype interview where like you have like nothing on below, but you have plenty of clothes on up top. It's like the reverse of that. I'm actually going to wear 18 layers on my
Sure.
legs. Okay. But anyway, I think we were a little late getting to this one. My fault. Been really exhausted recently. I've kind of hit my February slump, but the month is almost over. So that's going to be good news. And we do get a fun look at the updated formatting of the website because I realized that maybe the entire standings should be visible on one screen instead of you having to scroll down to the bottom. So it's a little smaller, and this way you actually
That's
get to see
nice.
MVP standings because I had some people telling me that they didn't even know MVP standings existed. So that was another reason for the fix. But anyway, we can see everything at once, and for some reason that means it decides not to scroll down to the right part of the screen, but that's okay. Or maybe I scrolled it back up to the top. I don't remember. But anyway, I don't think we actually got to make predictions for the last three series that just happened. Um, but I will say I think I would have predicted. Okay, New York Nutbusters did not beat us. That is incorrect. Um, Let me fix that real quick. But I would have been able to predict the result of that series. But the other two did really surprise me. I don't know what your expectations going into those were, but I think I was 2 for 3 on the triple header that we did predict on the podcast.
Yeah. Yeah, I thought the results this weekend weren't too surprising. I would have predicted Rift Sharks myself if we'd been asked. I thought Project Tuesdays and Metabusters would be a close series, which it was.
Yeah.
I'm not sure which way I would have actually predicted. I thought that one was a toss up, and I thought both teams looked good. And then I thought SKT's been playing well, and we've been up and down. So, I mean, I would have predicted to win, but not surprised that it was another 2-1.
Yeah, I mean, 2-2-1s yesterday was pretty exciting. Unfortunately, I wasn't super able to watch the games, although I did get general rundowns of the Project Tuesday series. I still need to catch up on the One Thief one, so I will defer to you for that one. I was pretty high on Project Tuesdays, though. I feel like once a team starts off 4-0 and they've played against teams that have looked really good, I'm going to tend to predict in their favor. But that said, they haven't played against Alberts, they haven't played against Snarkify, and Metabusters is the other team who's even or winning at this point, basically because they took them down. And Project Tuesday's remaining match is going to be against Qualmless Chillers, who right now are 0-4. They started off the season 4-0 and 0-4 respectively. But I think something that we will get to touch on more later is Scott Pilgrims did get signed to QC, so there's a question of how much does that actually matter. And there's also the question of how much does him leaving affect Snarkify, because they had some rosters with Scott Pilgrims in them that looked really scary to me. So those being off the
Yeah.
table, I think does hurt the team a little bit. I think that is why there was some hesitation in actually getting that roster move done. But we do have a really exciting series tomorrow. We had some availability issues between a few teams in the last week, so I got some freedom with how to schedule the remaining games. So we got to see the SKT versus 1T matchup where both have the same record, and we get to see Alberts and Snarkify, the two remaining undefeated teams, get to go head to head tomorrow. So there will only be one remaining undefeated team after this week. I was expecting there to be two, given as what I said earlier about my prediction of Project Tuesdays winning. Again, not because I don't think Metabusters is good, I just think PT has looked really solid. But from what I heard, Tusini absolutely smurfed in that series, and I think if you're able to play really well into LSD Dreams, which a lot of good mid laners haven't been able to do, I think that does make it a little easier to beat them. But I don't know how. What are you feeling about Alvarez Inferno versus Snarkify? Has your prediction changed since we last talked? Or actually, no, we didn't make our predictions for that series yet. I
Yeah, we
forgot.
didn't make predictions.
Yeah.
Um, hmm. I'm really excited for this one. I think both these teams have been looking really good. Um, I, I think it'll be close. I'll probably favor Snarkify just because um, I think some of Albert's strengths are also Snarkify's strengths. Like I think Sandy's been playing really well, and I think a lot of Albert's success has come off the back of really good games out of Omar. And I think maybe he might struggle to. I mean, I don't think he's going to lose to Sandy super hard or anything, but I don't think you're going to beat Sandy hard either. I think that'd be maybe a back and forth matchup, and I think that maybe takes away a win con for Alberts. Whereas I think Snarkify can fall back pretty heavily on Davidas to be like a bot lane carry for them. If there is an angle for Alberts to continue their trajectory and of grabbing wins, I think it's going to come through top lane. I think Canuck has been really good so far this season and has performed against a lot of really good top laners. And if you're assuming that Snarkify is going to run the roster they have run so far, which is Kage top, maybe that's actually an angle that Alberts can try to play through. Because I think Kage is a little bit lower individual tier than some of the top laners that we've already seen Canuck really give problems to. But at the same time, I think Kage is one of the best players in the server as far as like playing his role, knowing what he needs to do, not losing to the point where he is any sort of an issue for his team. Like I think he's so good at playing weak side, and I think if he's able to continue to do that, I don't know if Canuck will actually be able to get enough of an advantage to where Alberts can win through that. So I think I'd favor Snarkify probably in like a 2-1. I think there's one game where Canuck will probably just pop off.
Okay, yeah, I kind of have the reverse prediction of you. I think out of the so-called top teams, if you're looking Metabusters and up, I think Albert's Inferno matches into Snarkify the best of those teams. As kind of what you were saying, I think Canuck is a really good matchup into that. And especially if they end up running Draco, I think having a weaker support on Snarkify is something that can be punished by Draco. I think Draco drafts really well and is able to find picks that punish support and like kind of team compositions in ways that people don't always think of. And I think that is going to work really well on Albert's credit. If we get a good series from Brian, or honestly a performance anything like what we saw from Rift in their last series, I think they're looking to be in good shape to not instantly lose the game to Vitas or Sandy, because I think Omar's been performing really well too. So then I think it does come down to who gets run in the jungle for Snarkify. And as we've talked about before, Scott Pilgrims isn't an option anymore. So I think that takes away. I think that is something that I would have expected to maybe see as an alternative roster coming out from this team. He has the Shaco in his bag, and I think that can really disorient teams, but it's not going to happen. So if we're going to see an alternate jungle, it's going to mean that Lelouch isn't playing, is my understanding, because it would mean that either Mason or Hanya are in the jungle, and that means that you can't be running Lelouch and you have to be running Eden instead, which I think farther... Actually, I don't know. I think Eden has a more complex pool, so I think you're likely to see more picks, but I think it's shallower, so it would make it easier for Draco to kind of plan out against those picks. But anyway, I think Canuck has shown that they're able to get leads really easily, even against really difficult players to play against, and I think if we see more of that, I think that could kind of outdo Kage's defensive play style, because we have seen Kage seed like 50 CS in matchups against players who are probably middle of the pack top laners, given a poor matchup. And if you have someone who's able to get basically 50 CS advantages against really good top laners, I think that kind of amplifies the gap there. And I expect Canuck to be able to punish really hard through top. But I think if Snarkify is going to end up winning, it's going to be through Kage playing really well and not finding a lot of mistakes into Canuck. I think I might have flipped some words around. My brain has not been functioning at all.
No,
recently.
I followed you. I think what you're saying makes sense. I think we're both kind of in agreement on. I think we're both kind of in agreement on top lane being really important in that series. Yeah. I think you're kind of leaning towards Canuck being able to maybe create enough of an advantage, and I'm kind of leaning towards I think Kage's playstyle maybe working again. So that is going to be a fun one. I do feel like on a broader note, I feel like top lane's been very important this season, kind of overall. I feel like we've seen a lot of games getting maybe more priority through top lane than perhaps in seasons past. And I'm curious, do you think, and if you, first, I'm curious if you agree with me on that. And second, I'm curious, do you think that has to do with the player pool this season, or do you think that has to do with, the season itself, like the balance changes?
I think equal parts. I think we have a lot better top laners joining the server this season. Obviously, I'm looking at Tuxedo and Canuck when I say that. I think Chow's playing a much more solid season than he did last season. He was already playing really well last season.
Yeah.
Getting to see a lot of Blake
Dave's been
too.
playing really well.
Yeah. I feel like, I mean, as I said, I think Dave really spikes as it gets to the late game. I think he's not been necessarily stronger laning, but his impact in the late game has been just as high as any of the other players we've talked about.
Yeah.
So I think those players do have an impact, but the fact that they have 2 more levels than any other player on the map is always going to make you have more impact. And especially the impact of like, you're giving more resources to top because you want them to get that advantage early, because kind of pressing that lead gives you more power in the late game. Because if you are behind, then you're kind of at 18 when the rest of your team's at 18. I mean, not necessarily, support's obviously going to be a little lower in terms of level, but when you get put behind, not having those levels 19 and 20 does make a really big difference. So I feel like the opportunity to want to snowball through top lane early is nice. And a lot of the carry champions just having those extra stats at late levels makes them a lot stronger. So we've seen a lot more carry champions drafted, but I think a lot of that is also because of the player pool being different. We see people who are more likely to play out carries. And I think going back to the Chow point, I think he plays a very different role on our team than he did for QC. So we're giving him more carry champions, whereas last season he kind of just got thrown on tanks every single game. So I don't know. Could just be a drafting thing and the playstyle being different. I think you still do have those play tanks every game players, but there's one, maybe 2 of them. So that's definitely not what we had last season.
Yeah.
So obviously we're not going to have the schedule for next week and for like another couple hours. So because we are doing the podcast a little earlier today, so we're not going to be able to make predicts going forward. Maybe we'll drop in season discussion. Maybe we won't. But I do want to point out something I find very interesting is that Snarkify Rebellion's only played 2 series, and there are, I think, 5 teams who have played 5 series. So I think people are still viewing them to be pretty high, but there's actually kind of no proof that that's how it's going to pan out, especially because I think a lot of, honestly, personally, I had been looking at that Kage Scott Pilgrim's roster for them to be one of their stronger points. And with that being gone, I think that is really interesting. But on the flip side, QC, who has been 0-4, they've played, they're on pace to have played the average number of series. They've taken their break week so far, so they're in a pretty normal spot. And that break week is giving them a pause to stop the losing streak, and they've added a new player. Do you think that's going to make a difference for this team, or do you think it's not really going to change much, or maybe even going to hurt them because they have to change who they're practicing with?
I don't know if it can hurt them. I mean, there's really nowhere to go but up. Yeah, I was looking at the roster tool when I heard that they had the I don't know if trade's the right word. I think
Transfer.
Vetus put it correctly when he said charitable donation, frankly. I don't know. I looked, and I think they can do some different rosters, like some potentially creative stuff. But I still feel like your absolute best roster for QC has to involve Drakkar. So the one you have on the screen right now doesn't involve him. I think you have to have Drakkar in there. And then, I mean, if you're just going to go like 1-for-1 Rat and Scott Pilgrim, I don't think that's that much of a change. And
okay, it does open up Ribbons over Alec in ADC, which I think is notable, considering Ribbons is main role ADC, but Scott Pilgrim's is not main role mid, despite what his roles will tell you, I think.
Yeah, I don't know if that's that much. I think that's pretty neutral to me. Like, I think Alec's been playing fine. I think Ribbons is playing well. There's a way I think you can get Drakkar, Scott, and Rat all in at the same time. Very specifically, if you play, I think you have to play Paul and Zaber, and then you can have Rat, Alec, or Rat, Scott, and Drakkar, and maybe like that's the angle, because you're just like we have 3 such quality high ranked players that the lower point players, like, it'll balance out. But I mean, I don't know. I'd have to see proof of concept on that. I think you're having people like off roll then at that point.
Here, let's pencil that out. So you're saying Drakkar, Rat, Scott in over Alec, and then Jim out for Paul M.
And that can work.
Yeah,
but
I mean,
at that point, like,
this is the arrangement that they do it in if that happens, because Scott obviously played top last season, and then Zaber has played ADC a decent amount before, so this isn't terrible.
Maybe you try this. I will
but
say, I feel like bot lane matters so much less than it has. So I mean, maybe you just do this and you hard win topside to the point where it doesn't matter. I do think Paul's champion pool fits their team better than what they've shown. Like I think the pocket picks of things like the Tarek are really strong when you have players like Drakkar and Rat to give that invulnerability to just frontline for in team fights. I think Paul was just such a consistent force for them that he set them up really well. So maybe you could try something like that out. I mean, why not? I mean, you might as well try it. You know, they added Scott to the team. I'm sure they're going to put him in some fashion. But I
Yeah.
do ultimately think that any roster where Scott's coming in, but you don't have Drakkar and Rat, is at best neutral to the rosters they've been running.
Yeah. And then that does kind of force you to do this. So it's a little telegraphed. And I think we actually haven't seen a lot of like carry ADCs. Okay. Obviously, every ADC is kind of a carry, but like ones that really break open the game. Like if we're thinking, like a Draven, a Samira, something like that. Even Lucian, we've only seen twice. Callista, we've seen once. Champions like that, I'd expect to come out if you do kind of put, Saber's. I've been performing well top, I'd say, but switching to an off role, I think, is going to put a target on his back, and especially Paul being brought in. I think people are going to look to really hard punish and break home the game from bot, and I think that exposes you to it a little bit. Obviously, Rat and Drakkar have really good roams, but roams can only be so effective when you're going into a bot lane who's already fed. It usually just ends up in you getting popped, and that does nothing helpful for your team. So it could be interesting to look forward to what's going to happen there. Honestly, I would say that the Snarkify Rebellion move probably signals that they're looking to run Eden a lot more and end up putting Mason or Hanya in the jungle a higher percentage of the time. Because, as I did say before, if Lelouch is in there, Hanya and Mason cannot fit in. So that is
Yeah, they have to play
the
hero
option.
then, which
Right.
I mean, I think
Yeah, I mean,
I think they have
I
two
think
kind
this
of
roster is
rosters.
still
Hero,
solid,
yeah,
but you've lost the ability to run this one, which is the one that
yeah,
easily got them very close to the cap. Which again, I
yeah.
don't think necessarily means everything, but it does mean something. I don't know. It's at least representative of performance. But anyway, I'm excited to see who between Inferno and Snarkify is going to end up on top. I would assume Snarkify wasn't looking to run Scott on Tuesday, or I don't think they would have made the transfer. But MetaBuster is looking really good. I felt like they've had a bunch of good series this season. Obviously, the first two losses they had were to teams that looked really good. They've already used their break week, so I think they could be on track for 4 straight wins. We'll have to see if it happens, but they've already taken down an undefeated team, and they're up
Yeah.
against, I believe, MetaBuster or Albert's Inferno is the other one team with a winning record, but otherwise they're against 3 teams who are below them on the standings. So I would expect that to go well for them, but again, we'll have to see. So my eyes are on them, and obviously the big conversation for the rest of the season is going to be around SKT, NYNB, One Thief, and Qualmless Chillers. Who's going to make it to playoffs, because there's only one spot left for those teams. Metabusters obviously could end up dropping, but I think given that the other teams are undefeated and have a lot of breathing room in terms of the losses, and Rift Sharks and Project Tuesdays both already have 4 wins, which I believe basically locks us into playoffs. I don't know if it's possible for us to not make it with 4 wins.
Probably it'd be some
Yeah,
shenanigan. It's probably
yeah,
locked, basically. Yeah.
yeah. Because no,
It'd
yeah,
be
I think
it'd be
it's
the
you
one in a
literally need to
thousand
have
Baldy sheet.
yeah, it would need to be some ties, and then a lot of teams would need to end up with 5 wins, and 3 teams can't even get 5 wins. So
Yeah.
yeah, I think Rift Sharks and Project Tuesdays are all but locked, and I think that gives us some breathing room to maybe get to see some subs play, because there are a lot of people on both of these rosters that haven't seen any playing time. I believe Project Tuesdays has run. Did they run Stormy in the first series, or did Spiral play? I'm trying to think if I'm confusing that with Frostbite.
Not sure.
Okay, hold on, let me check. Dave's played 13, which has got to be every series. Metabusters, he played against One Thief, Rift Sharks, NYNB, SKT. That's main roster, main roster, main roster. Yeah, so that is a consideration, because if you don't run a player during the regular season, you're not able to run them during playoffs. So if Project Tuesdays does not run any of their subs, it really limits their potential availability during playoffs and doesn't mean that they'd likely have to end up forfeiting a series if they have something come up on a specific week. So it could be nice to just make sure that you have that cushion available for you. In Rift Sharks, I believe we haven't run Chaos. I haven't really figured it out for sure yet, but depending on availability, I think you could be likely to see us run a Chaos roster into one of our remaining 3 opponents. Kind of depends on our matchup and availability. It's been spotty. We were hoping to get it in earlier, but one of our series had to get scheduled to a time that we didn't think it was going to be, and we weren't able to get that roster run. It's kind of a bummer, but I'm just happy to see all my players go on the Rift. I think everyone's played really well in our scrims and practices, and I think everyone's had really good moments on stage. So we could see a different approach from those top 2 teams, but honestly, since we're both in such tight contention for first place, as well as the 2 undefeated teams, I think we're probably going to see pedal to the metal unless one of those last games of the season doesn't impact anything. As you mentioned, Foldy Sheet is going to be available once 4 more series are going to be played, so we will get to start looking at that. Maybe not next episode, but soon after that. I did do the modifications to get it ready for 9 teams. I hate it. It makes my whole computer lag. There's too many possibilities, but oh well. Are there any teams that stick out to you that you think could be the most likely to grab that 6th slot? Or do you think maybe 2 of the teams from the bottom are going to get it and maybe one of the other teams could drop down to the bottom?
I think honestly, I think right now it's a battle between the bottom 4 on the page. I think the other 5 are going to probably be pretty. I'd be pretty shocked, honestly, if one of the other 5 fell down to like 7th. I think you're looking at a battle between SKT, New York Nutbusters, One Thief, and Qualmless for that 6th spot. And I think SKT having 2 wins is obviously a nice advantage for them right now, including head-to-head against both Qualmless and One Thief. Nutbusters obviously also has the head-to-head against One Thief. One Thief does have the head-to-head against Qualmless, so I think you're really in like a tight race there. And I mean, I think frankly, like all of those teams are kind of in like win every game territory right now. Like you kind of need to just win out if you want to be like with any. I think winning out. I think any of those teams winning out would give them probably certainty on a 6th spot. And I mean, I think all those teams are kind of in do or die territory. I mean, you've got Qualmless doing a little roster switch up. We'll see what they want to try. I mean, Nutbusters' only win is week 1 against One Thief. So I mean, they've ripped off 4 straight losses. So they need to change something up. One Thief obviously has had like close series, but has not been able to get wins on the board outside of their 1 win against Qualmless. So I think all those teams right now are kind of just stuck battling for that 6th spot, and I'll probably throw SKT in there too. I mean, they're at 2. They're 2 and 3. I guess MetaBusters also at 2 wins. I think you're kind of battling right there for 5, 6
also
maybe.
At 2 wins is like the thing that really sticks to me. Like I think a lot of people have said good things about the team, but we haven't actually seen them play out that much. They played against MetaBusters in week 1, which I believe was a off roster for MetaBusters, or did they run? Someone fact check me here. I like really don't remember who they ran week 1. I feel like Jacob must have been playing.
I don't know,
so
but I mean, I think Snarkify, they've only run 2 games, but I think
so MetaBusters ran Fuger top in the first series. So I think that at least gets an asterisk on it, as Snarkify did win that, but that's not the standard. And I think Fuger getting like owned. I mean, he did do well in the early game with the Urgot, but it didn't stay going well. So I think Snarkify's win has been over a MetaMusters that didn't look great and a team who's only won 1 match against another team with the same record. So it is possible that Snarkify is not good as people think they are. So I'm not going to agree with you that I think top 5 is locked as like for sure as you think it is, but I think it is likely to end up that all these teams qualify, but I wouldn't write it off yet. Skaven, I think, can afford a loss, maybe 2. But I don't think any team that ends with a record worse than 3 and 5 is going to qualify, unless there happen to be 4 teams who are 2 and 6, and then it gets a little complicated from there. But looking at the remaining opponents, SKT has to still play New York Nutbusters, which I think is a winnable matchup for either of them. But moving on after that, they have to play Metabusters and Snarkify, which I think might be two guaranteed losses for SKT if both of those teams continue to play the way we've seen them. So SKT is going to have to level up by the end of the season if they want to get a win in either of those. Or they can get the win against New York Nutbusters, and I think they're probably in qualification territory. Looking the next rung down, New York Nutbusters, absolute must-win game versus SKT, absolute must-win game versus Columbus Chillers. And then Metabusters is going to be a hard end of the season for New York Nutbusters, but again, Metabusters only has 2 wins, so I think that makes things a little more doable for New York Nutbusters. I think if they get any 2 out of those 3, it puts them in a really good position. Except the problem is that they need to actually qualify. Like, if they win 2 out of 3, they're likely going to tie with one of the teams that they haven't played, and they need to have the tiebreaker over that team. So their chances get a little dicey there. As for One Thief, you guys still have to play Metabusters, you still have to play Rift Sharks, and you still have to play Snarkify, which is really tough, like, remaining schedule. However, I think you do have an opportunity against Metabusters, if that does happen to be next week, to really be like, okay, they won 2 series, they're 2-2 though, they're even, and then, you can get a win over them. I don't think they've looked unstoppable by any means. They did lose a game to Project Tuesdays, and I think Stav has been historically one of the really strong players for this team, and even himself, he was saying that he kind of felt shut down this series and didn't have high impact. And I think there is an argument for Sarverus and Bean for being on the same level as Yug and Fatal, depending on the game. I think they've looked really strong in a lot of the games at the beginning, and I think if they're able to use that laning power to shut out Stav and Jacob, I think that really makes your life easier, because we know time and time again you're better than the mid laners on their team, and it's just going to be a question of the top side. Korn obviously has looked good, but Jonah is a Scrim Zone vet. I think he would be able to hold his own, and Noam knows a lot about Fudra's playstyle, so I think that probably is your best opportunity to grab a win. And if you're able to get one against either Rift Sharks or Snarkify, I think that would probably just get you a spot. Easier said than done, though, but I don't think it's fair to count you guys out completely yet. However, the team that it might be fair to say that against is Columbus Chillers, because they have Albert's Inferno remaining. They have Project Tuesdays remaining, and they have Snarkify Rebellion remaining. And those 3 feel like guaranteed losses to me, given how they've played the game. I think it would be really funny if they ended up running Scott Pilgrims against Snarkify and beat them. Like, you can't help but laugh at that situation if it happens. But they definitely need to get the win against New York Nutbusters. I think, especially if that match is next week, or no, I mean, it's supposed to be their second one. But if they end up losing that one, I think you're just cooked, because even if you do get 3 wins against top teams, those are not going to be helpful for you as tiebreakers, because they don't even have a chance to tie for Project Tuesdays if they lose another single series. And the only chance they can tie with Project Tuesdays is if they win every series and Project Tuesdays loses every series. And that is just likely not to happen. But yeah, I mean, I think it's really tough for QC here. They'd need to win every single one, I feel like, or at least 3 out of the 4, but they have really tough matchups ahead of them. They easily have the hardest strength of schedule, considering 3 of their opponents are in the top 4 right now, and anyone in the top 4 only has 1 loss or 0, which is just super tough. I think New York Nutbusters honestly has the easiest schedule to get them out of this, given that they have matches against both Skaven and QC. The Metabusters one's going to be tough, but just looking at matchups, I like NYMB's chances the most, but SKT being in a position where they have that extra win puts them in a nice spot too. Super duper hard for QC, and I think only marginally easier for One Thief, but I think knowing how clutch the people on your team can be, I think it would be stupid to just say it's not going to happen, whereas I think you could probably put some money down on the 9th spot saying the same. We'll have to see. And again, a lot of things I say on this podcast, I'm hoping I get to eat my words on. So maybe QC will really step it up and prove me wrong. But I don't know.
I think that's a good breakdown. Yeah, I think you've kind of hit it all.
Yeah, if you want to look at meta a bit, we can. I think it's hard to look forward too much without having the upcoming matchups. But
I mean, we can look at the games that just happened, or we can look at the meta a little bit.
That's true. I forgot about that part of it. I just like have not had the time to watch them. Okay, for the first game of Rift Sharks versus NYMB, I feel like that one was really close. Daniel played super well. I feel like he did a really good job of punishing like any bad rotation we had. And Mike's Kindred, I feel like, was pretty powerful that game. Blake was able to get a good lead on Maokai. Unfortunately, we just kind of scaled up. Evan ended the game with a really nice pentakill. Played super solidly. Frentic's call for the Sona, I feel like, was really clutch this game into the amount of poke that New York Nutbusters had on the board already.
Yeah.
And Fishy just played an absolute monster game. He was like 7-0-2 to start the game off. There was the play where Giraffe Fishy executed the Nocturne Ori combo, and PB literally just walked too close to the target and got just one shot immediately. So Giraffe was much stronger in this game than the scoreline makes it seem like. Second game was a lot less close, although Archive did have a pretty good performance on the Unara. But I don't know. Chow did a really good job punishing the Singe pick. I think
thought the Nar was a really good pick into the Singed, and I thought Chow did a good job. And I mean, if Blake doesn't have a good game, I don't think Nutbusters can ever really win.
Yeah. I mean, I think if they're into a team that has like a weaker mid or a weaker bot, I think Daniel and Archive could pop off, but I don't think into Giraffe Evan there's really carry potential for either of those two players unless we have like a absolute stinker of a series. I thought Mike played well in this series. It was nice to get to see him show up this season. I think there were some availability things that popped up for Carrot on Saturday, but I don't think it was really a big difference in the jungle in terms of power. Mike was at least way more consistent, so that's always good.
Yeah.
But moving forward to the next series, I mean, Yug going 11-0-9 in the first game, I think is exactly what you expect from this team. We did get to see the GP come through, which was pretty exciting. I think this is a Seraphine mid. Bit of an interesting pick. I think it's a little more passive than you would like, especially with like Mundo Braum set. It basically puts the entire weight of the game onto Stav, and obviously he didn't have the lane. He's
against a bunch of assassins and a gangplank, and there's way too much weight on Stav in that game one draft.
You do take the Mundo away from Spiral, and Fatal has a good Braum, but unfortunately I feel like you're wasting Jacob's Braum here. But in the second game, they obviously do much better. I feel like you get to see Korn pop off in the way you expect him to. And Tusini dropping 18 kills on the Kale is obviously very strong. I don't know if you've gotten the chance to watch this series yet or not, but
I saw a little bit of it. I mean, Tusini Kale's a classic. Like he tried playing it a little earlier this season and wasn't able to convert it into a win, but we've known how good he is on that champion in the past. I think Fuzier's a really good jungle player on multiple strategies, whether carry or tank, and he showed a good Sejuani game. I think Sejuani paired super well with Korn's Renekton, which, I mean, you got the Darius, but Renekton's right there at like his best champ. And I mean, I think Dave has been a very good Poppy player. I mean, he's just straight up carried games on Poppy this season, and I think, he's probably fine thinking he's into Korn there, but I think Korn just kind of showed mastery of his matchup and of his champion.
The Renekton for Korn, you can't sleep on it. I also think if you look at Metabusters draft and you think it's kind of a mess in the first game, I think you can say the same thing about Project Tuesdays because their entire comp just gets completely outranged by Kale Jinx. Like you're just kind of never touching them. Yeah. Poppy can obviously run faster than Trundle can, but their only strategy is to just run directly at Jinx and Kale, and if one of them's able to get in range for anything, you just polymorph or have the Sejuani hit him. And I mean, even Korn can just drop a W on him. Like it's really hard for them to approach onto the back line. Honestly, the fact that Tusini died as much as he did is surprising given draft, but really tough spot to play Cassio. And I feel like the Sivir is decent, but not great here. The fact that Spiral was positive isn't super surprising considering he could duel out against the Renekton and Sejuani a lot. I feel like does have really good gank setup onto the Kale in the early game, but looking at draft, this result really doesn't surprise me. Going into the third game, we got to see the Malphite support come out again, and we got to see the Galio Nocturne. This is a composition that Project Tuesdays has used before. I know for a fact that Metabusters was prepared for this. I had people in my DMs being like, you know they're going to pick this in this series, so I don't think from this team, but I think other teams were definitely aware that this was going to be a strategy for Project Tuesdays. Dave actually had a pretty successful game here, but knowing that your goal is to get on a bunch of people and blow them up, this Kindred pick for Fujer is fantastic. The
Yeah.
mobility spells for the Ari, really good. And that's Galio's worst matchup and one of Ari's best. It's a really good spot for the Ari here. I don't know what order this was drafted in. And Stav and Jacob both on really good comfort that, again, has mobility and healing to kind of mitigate these collapsible ultimates. I think this is just a really intelligent draft for Metabusters and kind of a predictable one for Project Tuesdays. Not that that's necessarily bad, because obviously the Ori Not combo from our team is super predictable, but you do have to know when to go for these comps and when to pivot based on what the other team picks. And I think that went in Metabusters' favor here, with Project Tuesdays going from something you expect kind of from the jump. If this is something we saw come out for them in game one, I think maybe Metabusters could have gotten a win, but then Project Tuesdays could go, oh, we need to adapt, do a different play style, and then adapted to draft over the series. But I feel like they probably found the window. They go, we can pick all our champs here, but Metabusters had the prep, obviously, looking at their picks.
Yeah. Yeah, I thought Metabuster's draft here was really intelligent into the Nocturne Galio. I mean, you can't really get onto an Ari. That's great peel. Something like Orianna could still kind of work, because if you time the shockwave well enough, you can't even get away from it with Flash or Ari Dash or anything. But Galio doesn't have that same follow-up that Orianna does. So yes, the Nocturne's threatening, but Ari can get away. As you just mentioned, the Kindred ult's there if you need it. I think Dave had a nice game, but Korn's just a master of play. Like, he has a game where he pops off on Renekton, then he has a game where he's just not going to allow you to beat him through top lane on something like the Ornn. It's just a solid player, always has been. And yeah, I mean, nice series by Metabusters. I mean, I don't think Project Tuesday's played bad by any means, but they do take their first loss of the season. I don't know if there's really like anything to, as far as like, do other teams look at this now and be like, oh, well, maybe this is how you beat Project Tuesdays? I don't know necessarily. I think Metabusters just showed up on the day, had a good draft, and played well. I think Project Tuesdays, maybe you kind of look at your Game 3 draft and say, well, I don't know if we can just take Nocturne Galio every single time in like a Game 3 situation, because I know they have a lot of preference to do that. I mean, we've scrimmed against them, and you get to a Game 3 when there's lots of bans, and they're grabbing Nocturne Galio. So I mean, they're confident in that, and I think it can work. But you kind of saw here like a team had a good answer into it, and yeah, credit to Metabusters. I mean, playing really well right now.
Yeah, and I think that team is very good at drafting, and it shines through here. Metabusters has a lot of really
I mean, they have the AI
into.
draft tool, so the
it's
AI draft tool is carrying them again. How many seasons in a row?
so true. Definitely doesn't do more harm than good. But I will let you go over your own series. As I said, I haven't really gotten to hear much about it, so I do want your take on it, if you don't mind.
Yeah, sure. So I mean, I think game one. So the team with side select won all three games. Red side won all three games. SKT takes red side on game one. One Thief decides to go with the first pick Viego to kind of free that up. It's champion Noam has played well on the past. You take that, kind of free up a fearless ban. You don't have to ban that anymore against Apari. A lot of teams have been perma-banning that against him. I think, but you ended up in a spot in this game where SKT got counterpick on both solo lanes. They took Mundo on like B3, and then they take Kale on R3, and then you have last pick for SKT's mid laner. So we blind picked the Talia champion we've been pretty comfortable on, and thought the Zyra pick was really, really cool from Game Case. Haven't seen that really very often, and that felt like a really impossible matchup for Talia to play against, especially when you have like no engage coming from jungle or support. There's just like never any actual threat on Zyra that game. I will say Ray's pick is wrong here. He actually played Rakan, and I thought he did an extremely nice job as like his solo engage that game for his team. I played a really nice Rakan game. And yeah, I mean, to me, I thought they all played well, but Game Case and Ray in particular really stood out to me in game one. I thought they played really well. Going over to game two, One Thief gets to take red side this time. And I mean, this game really wasn't that close. I thought we played really well. Bean is a really good Misfortune player, showed it. We took Anivia as last pick, and I think Anivia was just... Or no, actually, sorry, I think we took Anivia on 3. They blind picked Orianna, we took Anivia, and then I think we last picked Malphite, actually. So they blind picked Zed top, having a little fun with that. Tuxedo had some good plays in that game, was really kind of keeping a minute off of just being really slippery, but overall, kind of a stomp there. I thought Noam had a nice game. Really, everybody played well. You go back to game three. SKT takes the red side again.
Oh,
What did we do? Trying to remember what we first picked.
yeah, I can see if I can pull up draft real quick if that would help.
Oh no, I remember. We went ahead and first picked the Xin Zhao. No one was feeling real confident on that, so we went for the Xin Zhao. They answered with the Vayne Alistar. I think that was smart by them. Ray's Alistar had taken some bans in second phase, so you just go ahead and grab that. Was an intelligent ban. I know we were kind of hoping to go for Sivir in this game, but once Alistar gets locked in, you can't really pick Sivir there. So that kind of screwed up a little bit of what we wanted to do, but I think Rel Ash is fine. Apari gets his Kane, which, I mean, we didn't forget about that. I mean, we chose not to ban it.
It's terrible into Xin Zhao. I think it's a
Yeah, I mean,
choice to leave it up here.
I think the champ's pretty weak early game. Xin Zhao's strong early game. I think you can see the angle, but he played a really good Kane game. Blind pick Aurora was a smart choice. The Xerath's like a nice counter pick, but in hindsight, I don't think it was the best thing in the slot. I think I did the most damage in the game, as you should on Xerath. Like I was pumping damage, but had a really hard time staying alive into the Alistar Kane. But once they've like banned LeBlanc, I mean, I've eaten 3 bans plus Fearless bans plus I'd probably have played Aurora, but that's gone too. So kind of get Pool's pinch. Jonah has to blind pick. I think there was some desire to maybe go for more of a tank, but then you have some concern over, well, does Vayne get flex top? So you end up blind picking something like Renekton, which you feel like can do also a strong blind pick, but would do better if it does end up being like Vayne top. Thought they had an intelligent Cho'Gath last pick. He really kind of did some work in that lane. And yeah, I mean, it was a close-ish game, but ultimately I thought they just did a really nice job of executing, particularly with Ray on the Alistar and with Apari on the Kane, just really threatening backline. And to me, I think like game one, I don't know who got the MVPs, but in game one, like I said, I thought Ray and Game Case really stood out. And then in game three, I thought Ray and Apari really stood out. Ray's Alistar is absolutely menacing.
He had Apari and Ray really got MVPs, but I think it was Apari game 1 and Ray game 3. So
really, I don't know. Well, Ray's Alistar in game 3 was really menacing. I mean, you see 22 KP, just the highest in his team by quite a bit in that game, was just kind of everywhere on the Alistar. Played really well. Yeah, played really well. So yeah, just a really solid series out of SKT, particularly in their wins. I think they're continuing to look really strong. I don't really think they have like a super clear weakness. I mean, I think in the games they lose, you can kind of bully them through like mid lane, but I think, this game, that first game, I thought the Zyra was a super intelligent counter pick, and then in game 3, I think Game Case's scoreline looks pretty solid. Like he kind of just farmed up and showed up in team fights, pressed R on the Aurora, and followed up on his engage really well. So
kind of all you need to do sometimes.
Pretty solid 2-1 win for SKT. I think they're looking really strong. I'm excited to continue to see them play against other teams.
Yeah, and I think it's a nice bounce back too. Obviously, Apari was talking a lot of shit in the last podcast and then ended up going 0-2 that day. I think that's something that can be a little demoralizing, but going on what he said, maybe more people doubted them, and then that made him even stronger in this series.
Yeah, so, maybe.
Who knows? But I think this is probably one of the best. Well, ignore game 2 completely, actually, when I say this, but I think this is one of the better drafted series that I've seen from this team kind of ever. Particularly the game 3 draft, though. They immediately completely denied Xin Zhao's entire play style with the 2 champions that they lock in, and then they get comfort for Apari. Obviously, the Xin Zhao is showing, but I don't think he's too worried about the Ashe and Rel that we see locked in, because Rel is very delayed, actually, in all of her abilities. Really easy to, end up not being able to execute correctly with how slow the Rel can be, and Kane does have really quick movements when he needs to, so I think that was an intelligent pickup there. And then Aurora being a flex and Vayne being a flex at the same time actually makes it impossible to know what to pick on 4-5 there. So, I mean, I feel like whatever 2 champions you picked, they should have been able to punish given the setup that they had given themselves. So not really surprising that they were able to find that good pick with the Cho'Gath, actually keeping both of those other champions in the lanes that made the most sense for them. But just gave them a really good pick top, kind of made Jonas blind impossible in that situation. I do think it's a little unfortunate that we didn't get to see Sarvis in this series. I don't know if that had to do with the scheduling change that went on there, but bit of a bummer. I think he,
No,
or
no,
no,
not
just
actually. I think,
wasn't going to be able to
or
play either way, or
I don't think it's leaks to say or anything. He just Sarver's wanted to try this other, like he wanted to self bench and give Dad a
okay.
series, and I think Dad had a pretty nice series.
Yeah.
I think our team's been frustrating to me. I think in our wins we absolutely dominate for the most part, and then in losses we kind of either lose closely for the most part. We've had some bad losses, but most of them are kind of close. I think we've had all 2-1s except the very first week when we should have won, but we got carroted at Elder. So I mean, I think
Yeah.
we've just continued to have super super close series, and I don't know what roster we'll do moving forward. I know there's some discussion on we're trying to identify what we think our strongest iteration of players and lineup role is. So TBD, we'll see. But yeah, I don't know. Another really close but not close enough
Right.
for One Thief this season. It's kind of been the
Yeah.
theme.
Yeah, I mean, I will say I think Bean and Dad's scorelines looked incredible this series, so it's not like a diss on either of them. But I do think Sarv and Bean have had really high highs, and could have been interesting to see how that played out. Is the downside of the single round robin, though, you don't get to see teams play off against each other multiple times, but what can you do? We wouldn't be done until June, and by God, does people's availability get terrible at mid-May? So unfortunately, not something we could realistically do. But yeah, I mean, I will be interested to see what you guys run against the last three teams. I think it's very different kind of strength profiles of each of those teams. So I think there could be windows where you want to run one roster and want to run the other against other teams. So it should be interesting going forward. I do want to take a peek at the meta real quick, just for team format. Ornn, Maokai, Renekton, Scion, Dr. Mundo are back on top. Gwen's still there, but she's 1-3. I think we've, from all the excitement that we had talking about earlier in the season, I think we've just gone back to the Scrim Zone classics. I mean, Maokai and Renekton are both 4-1. That's, I guess, exciting. I don't know. Maybe that's not the right word for it, but more Renekton, less Darius this season, actually. I think it's probably been permabanned against Khorne, and no one else has really been playing it. With Avery being out. Looking over to the jungle, Amumu, Jarvan, Nocturne I feel like is the big surprise here, but nothing else is really shocking. Pantheon's moved up in priority a little bit, but otherwise this is all just Scrim Zone classic stuff. It's been cool to see both Spiral and Fishy get to play a decent amount of Nocturne, and I feel like the strategies towards how to draft around the champion and play around it have been pretty different between the two teams. I feel like Spiral uses it more as a setup, whereas when when we're running it, it's kind of a competition between who can get the kills between Ori and Nock, and it's can get a little exciting, definitely in the comms. But moving down to mid lane, we are just, again, back to the Scrim Zone Classics. We've seen more Azir and we've seen more Jace coming out of a few different players. But otherwise, this all looks pretty normal. You wouldn't even be able to tell that Tusini's been playing really fun champions because he just gets kind of buried in all of these. I do think it's more fun to see more of the Jace and the Azir. I think that is pretty exciting. And Aurora is a standout, being 3-0. And Anivia also 2-0, something to look out for. Bot lane,
Yeah.
boring as hell, nothing to say. Support, boring as hell, nothing to say. Nothing's changed from the last two seasons. I said that about those two roles before, and unfortunately nothing's changed. I do want to shout out to Cini because I feel like he's the one that picks the most interesting stuff. Dave has been picking off meta, but in a way that makes me think less of him as a human being. So at least he played tanks in the last series. I don't know what to say. And we got to see the GP, so that's cool. But I don't know. I do not forgive him for playing Vayne and Smoldering to me. It made my life miserable, and not in a way that normally you would expect it to punish me in lane. I don't think it did. It just made me have the frowny emoji on my face as I was playing. But no flame to Dave. I think you're doing really well. I think you've played really well. Just personal gripe. But yeah, do want to shout out to Cini. I kind of hated the Seraphine pick, but it was at least unique and fun, and he definitely made up for it with a Gale. Do you want to just hit the surveys real quick, or if you have any more thoughts on the meta? I think we've really just gone back to being boring, so I don't think there's too much to talk
I feel
about.
like it's so boring, man. Botling in particular. Like, when is the last time you've like seen any sort of action in bot lane? Like, nobody fights. Like, there's never 2v2 action. It's the most sleeper. It's boring.
It's a little
That's all I
silly.
have to say.
Yeah, I don't know. Okay, let me get these Google Forms filled up. Um, I like totally. I accidentally cleared my part of my cache by accident, and now it's like nothing's working. I was trying to remove cookies on one website because it was like running slow, and I cooked it. So it might take me a little longer. Okay, there we go. Um,
All right.
so we've actually gotten one response already, but the co-host is down to semifinals. And I can go over our previous responses. We did have an even number of responses, but there were no ties this time, so that was nice. Wumpus Vacation absolutely mogged on Mason Drake's shirt, 75% to 25. So it is moving on to the finals. And Mustache Era versus Flashbang Mason was a little bit closer, but Flashbang Mason did get the edge, a fan favorite. And surprisingly, Hypno Honen has been taken out by Beach Garrett. I was really surprised by that. I
Wow.
thought Hypno Honen was going to make it to semis. And the one that was surprisingly close, actually, Celtics Hoodie Noam, 3 votes, and Gruer and Eiffel had 5. So
We got some
Noam,
dog people in the call or in the server, I
that's
guess.
true. Or just Celtics fans. I know there's some of us. Noam probably voted for himself. I had to vote for Noam. No
Fair
offense to
enough.
you, but I get to see you very often.
Me and I were so happy
Okay,
though.
this is like cheating. I'm sorry,
Look at
Beach
this
Garrett. It's not
face. She
looking
wants
good.
to win, guys. She wants to win. Let me win something this season. It's not going to be the season. So can we vote for me and Eiffel?
Okay. Well, anyway, very short year. Not too much to talk about for this one. And SOS Dean is also to the semis. If I can find the previous round, it's like gone. Okay, here we go. We've gotten down to the last 2 matchups here as well. Halloween Fizz won 7-1 against Juice World Sunburnt, and first episode Baby Dean knocked out Daytime SOS, which I guess was a little surprising to me. I wasn't sure which way that was going to go. Go Kart Dean won every single vote out of 8. Eating
Go
Dean got
Dean. Let's
nothing,
go.
and Chef Dean got 7 out of 8 votes. Someone just wanted to see me shirtless and voted for Beach Dean, but Chef Dean, it is going to be versus Go Kart Dean. I honestly think this one isn't going to be that close, but the normal Dean vote might be pretty interesting. Since this episode is so early in the day, or I don't know, I didn't have time to cook before this, so I have not made my sandwich. I will be posting pictures of what I made that got eliminated from the last 2 weeks later,
That's awesome.
but I I don't know. I want to do more cooking. It's been a rough weekend for actually getting stuff done, but cheesesteak has moved on, defeating the BLT only barely. Classic grilled cheese nuked turkey melt, which was surprising to me. I feel like they are both melty cheese
We're,
sandwiches. One
we're,
just
we're
has
sleeping
more
on
to
turkey
love.
melt.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, that might be what I cook because goddamn, that sounded good. I actually don't know who put that one in, but if you DM me, I will. I don't know. I appreciate the submission there. Sliced ham and turkey with bacon and cheddar jack on sourdough is a fantastic sandwich creation. I respect to that. Unfortunately, it did not make it. The burger has lost to the chicken sandwich by 1 vote. It was super close. So we are hot chicken sandwich enjoyers in Scrim Zone, and chicken and waffles did beat out the classic breakfast sandwich. So we're big chicken fans overall. And moving over, tacos absolutely kicked shawarma's ass, and quesadilla won 6-3 against the lobster roll. So we do get to see another kind of Hispanic matchup here, which is pretty exciting. Either of these are very good contenders to make it to finals and maybe have a good shot against the other side, but we'll have to see. And moving on to the last section, we've gone back to having a variety category. S'mores absolutely dominated the chocolate chip ice cream sandwich. which was a little
Thank
shocking to
God.
me. But
No, about time. Get that sandwich out of here.
damn, this is hate.
It should have never even beat the traditional ice cream sandwich. I'll
Oh my
stand on
god.
that.
Oh my god.
I'll stand on that.
It's just got better cookies. I don't know what to tell you. But oh well. Um. Anyway, the s'mores moved on, and then fish sandwich beat meatball sub by a single vote. I think both of those were good contenders, but a really good fish sandwich I think is really hard to beat. I think your fresh caught fish right off the dock is definitely going to be better than even the best meatballs, but sue me for that one if you disagree. Um, Although I think meatball sub is at a disadvantage in that matchup because fish sandwich is so open ended. I feel like there's anything you can put in that category. We'll have to see. I feel like there's actually a very low rate of conventional sandwiches left. I think it's only 4 of these I think would
I'm I'm
traditionally be
I'm
considered.
curious. Do you have like a favorite? If you were giving odds, like who's the odds-on favorite right now in your opinion?
Well, whatever I predict, people are just going to vote against because people love to do that to me.
I'll just say I think cheesesteak is probably heading towards the finals.
Yeah, I
I don't
mean,
agree personally, but I think all these people in the server do. So
I don't know. I think the fact that the hot chicken sandwich beat out a cheeseburger, I think actually just gives it so much power. Like if people are there for that, I think that might push it over the edge. I don't know.
Well,
I
I will
like
say, actually, chicken and waffles, I would not have rated that highly, but not even joking. Like last weekend, I had chicken and waffles for the first time in forever, and it was like the best ever.
it
So I
is really
might
good.
actually carry chicken and waffles myself with some votes now. If done right, I
How
think
many
it's
times are you
amazing.
voting? There's like 8 votes and like
Oh,
7 of them are Gruer.
well, my
He's
cat
like,
gets a vote, right?
oh my god.
No, we're not. I vote
You get to
once,
vote
guys.
once.
I vote once. I
Yeah.
vote once.
Yeah, I don't know. I feel like my personal favorites would be either tacos or quesadilla. I think could make it. I don't think either of them are super definitionally sandwiches, but they're really good. And then Nashville hot chicken and cheesesteak, I think, are also solid contenders. I would say chicken and waffles, although I don't really think it's that much of a sandwich, which might hold it back. But who knows? I would be surprised if either s'mores or fish sandwich won, but I mean, whatever people vote is the right answer. I don't really have that much of a stake in it. I would be a little upset if classic grilled cheese won, just because it means that we all have the diet of a 5-year-old, but they are good. Like I can't debate that.
They are
Um,
good, especially if you get some soup with it, some tomato soup or
yes.
something
Yeah.
to
Okay.
go with.
Yeah.
Here we go.
Yeah.
All
Definitely
right.
some bangers eliminated, and I am glad that I do not have to cook a lobster to make my own lobster roll. I was really afraid of that. So we'll have to see.
I'm surprised
But
lobster roll fell out. To be honest, I'd have carried that one to the end.
yeah.
I
No,
think
very,
anyone that
very
voted for
tasty.
that hasn't had one.
Or just doesn't like seafood.
No, that's true. I
I feel
forget
like there's
those
a
people
large percentage
exist.
of people who like are very willing to
I
try
forget
seafood and it's
those.
just not for them. Which is kind of why I
I
think fish
forget those
sandwich isn't
people
going to make it.
exist.
But
Yeah, fair enough.
I don't know. I think there's eight solid contenders left. I will be a little bit bitter if S'mores wins, but hey, I mean, if that's what the people want. And now that I've said that, people are just going to vote for it and screw me over. So that,
Well, I'll be voting for it. So,
I've dug my own grave. You
but,
really
but
like it
that
more
was
than a fish
before you said
sandwich?
it.
Okay.
Yes, I do. Fish sandwich.
Gotcha.
When someone says fish sandwich, I'm just thinking of like the filet-o-fish from
Okay,
McDonald's.
see,
Like that. That's
okay.
what's popping into my mind.
Okay, you live in a landlocked state. I feel like
See,
that's what I'm not
that's
remembering.
there's a lot of us, Dean. There's a lot of us that live in the
Yes.
landlocked.
Oh, that's so sad. Okay, we gotta make Gruer Dean vacation real, and I'll take you to eat a good fish sandwich, and we'll get that filet of fish out of your
Definitely.
mind. Oh well. Well, anyway, I think this is a good time to stop it here. I'm excited for the rest of these brackets to close out, and way more excited than that to see how the rest of the Scrim Zone season pans out. We'll see what the next matchups are in a few hours. If you're a captain and you're watching this, stop slacking and get your avail in. And if you're not a captain and you're watching this, tell your captain to stop slacking off and put their availability in. I'm naming names. Only Meta Busters and Rift Sharks have put their availability in. So if you're on any of the other 7 teams, get on that. Tell your captain to do their shit.
Wow.
It was
Come on,
due
Jonah.
1 minute ago. So really slacking out here. But Anyway,
I think that should be a forfeit.
it's not a forfeit until they don't submit it until Wednesday. So they have some time. But if you don't submit by the end of the day Monday, it does mean that you automatically lose the series if it doesn't get scheduled. So we're playing dangerous here. But anyway, I will announce the matchups when we have them. I'll probably make my predictions in season discussion because we didn't get to do it on the podcast. But I think we're in for an exciting rest of the season. I'm excited to get to break the Foldy sheet out again. And hopefully it's not a situation where we know the 6 teams who are going to make it for a very long time. But at the very least, there is going to be a lot of contention for that 4th and 5th place spot because it does get you I don't know if it's like a bye. I guess you end up with a loss to start out if you end up at 5 and 6. So getting to dodge that by ending up in the top 4 is really good. And seeding does matter for side select. And I guess as exemplified by the 1T versus SKT series, having side select does indeed matter a lot, even if most of the teams who've had side select this season have lost, which is, I don't know, again.
That just means they're picking the wrong side.
That's true. We've had 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19 games, and the team who has side select has only won 6 times. So, yikes. But on that note, I think we will be ending the podcast. Gruer, do you have anything to say to the Scrim Zone audience?
No, everybody keep playing great. It's been a lot of interaction in the community. So many streams, a lot of people in the streams. It's been super fun. Just everybody keep it up.
Oh, yeah. If you cast, please cast more often. Shout out Draco for getting a lot of the streaming in and making sure that we get to watch the game even if there's no cast, but it is always more fun with the voice. And I do not fault Draco for not wanting to cast. It's not for everyone, and definitely not if you have to solo cast every time. So
yeah. I will say I have one
tons
other
of really
comment.
good casters, so it's a bummer not to hear y'all.
There's also I think also the MVP standings, we're only 4 or 5 games in, most of the teams, and you have so many players that have grabbed at least one MVP. I think it's been a really exciting season. You're seeing a lot of carries coming out from so many different positions. It's been cool.
Yeah, you have 12 players who have at least gotten more than one, so that's pretty fun. All right, but we will take off, and we'll see you in about a week or so, probably depending on when games get scheduled. So, peace.